Okay everybody, we are going to do the rust removal by electrolysis. So materials needed, it's going to be a container, some sort, some measuring spoons, 2 wires, which is housing wire with stripped ends, I will provide those, the rusty piece of metal that we want to remove rust from, a sacrificial piece of metal, which I will explain later, baking soda, and something that will be able to apply electricity. It can be a battery. I'm using this battery charger. So for the first thing that we need to do, we need to fill this up all the way. It's roughly 2/3 of a gallon. So we're going to do 2/3 of a tablespoon of baking soda and add it in, and that is our electrolyte solution. Okay, so this is actually closer to a gallon. I used a gallon jug to check how much water we put in there. So I'm just going to do a full tablespoon. And it's okay if you spill some. Ooh, I got way too much. So I use my finger and I shelved it off just like that to make a level. We're going to add that in. Then we're going to mix it up until the solution has cleared up on the inside. Now that we have our solution all mixed up, you look down in there, you shouldn't see anything in the bottom, nothing floating, it should all be dissolved within there. So we now have our rusty piece of metal. You can see the rust on there. We're going to go ahead and dip that in here on one side. Luckily this one will stand up. For our destructive piece of metal, we're going to mark it with a black wire. We're going to take one end and make a little hook out of it. You can see a little hook. And we're going to wrap it around in here. We're going to dangle this in over the side. So now that we have wrapped our wire around it and it is touching a clean part of the metal, we have this wire extending out. We're going to add positive to this wire, which goes to our sacrificial metal. We're going to have negative, positive and negative lead. We're going to add the negative one to this wire, which is to the one that we want rust removed. Okay, so as you can see from this, we have applied the positive to the sacrificial piece of metal, and the negative, which the clippy broke off, so I'm just putting the wires together, to the metal that needs rust removed. And we are going to plug it in now. See what happens. I'm doing this, take note that I'm doing this on a hard surface where if spark should come off, there shouldn't be anything that catches on fire. This is a bathroom. So here we go, we're going to plug it in. So during the experiment, you will notice lots of bubbles bubbling up around each metal. And you actually can't even see down there from how much bubbles is covering it. But anyways, this is how you know it's working. So this is about a half hour in, and you can see a ton of stuff is broken off, and the water has completely changed colors. Okay, so we are going to disconnect our battery charger. This has been running for approximately an hour. And we're going to check out the results. So, as you can see, this is the side that was more rusty. Rustier, I don't know. So you can see the rust up here. And as you can see, it's now been stripped away. Hardly any rust on it at all. A little bit of deep pitting right here. I should be wearing rubber gloves. A bad influence. I'm just going to dip that back in here for the time being. Let's see what happens to this side. So we saw that it used to have that bright coating on it. Now you can see it's lost it. So I'm going to take this opportunity to explain what happened here. This is actually more of a chemical lab than an electrical lab, but electrolysis, electro meaning electricity, lysis meaning break apart, it's Latin. What actually happened is when you have rust, it is iron oxide. It is a bond. So when we add electricity, what we're doing is we are separating the bond. So how does this work? Well, oxide is the reason why we get this pitting and this yellow. It's a mixture of the two. So what is actually happening is when we have this electrolyte solution, and when we apply electricity to it, we are causing the oxygen molecules on this to become negatively charged. And when we do that, as we know from electricity, negatively charged molecules are going to go towards a positive and vice versa. So what's actually happening is we're separating the oxygen from the iron. And thus this is how we get the results that we see. Now because curiosity killed the cat, I'm going to run this for several more hours because I think it's incredibly neat. Science. It's awesome. So yeah, that is what happens. Things that you should note from it. The gases that come off, you have to be careful because since this is water, one of the gases coming off is hydrogen, which is incredibly flammable. And baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. So you don't really have to worry about chlorine. If you did use salt as an electrolyte, you would have to worry about chlorine gas, which is poisonous in a large amount, but then small amounts coming off this shouldn't do anything. But I did have my bathroom fan turned on, so you want to make sure you have a well-ventilated area from the gases coming off of the metals. Last thing to note is that typically when this is all said and done, a solution inside the jar is incredibly basic. So if you do want to pour it down the sink, you should put in vinegar, which is highly acidic, to neutralize the solution so no harm can come to the rest of the world. But yeah, that is how this works.